If you're seeing this, it's not random. Listen until the end, chosen one.
Chosen one, listen to me carefully. What I am about to share is not for everyone. This message is not for the curious, the doubters, or those who walk casually with God. This message is only for those who truly walk the divine path, those who carry a calling, those who feel the weight of God's purpose on their soul. If you are not one of God's chosen ones, this video will not resonate with you, and it is better that you stop watching now. But if you are still here, it is not by accident. This message reached you at the exact moment your soul needed it. God aligned this word with your season, your struggle, and your growth. And yes, what you are about to hear has the power to change how you see your battles, your enemies, and even yourself. Romans 12:21 was written for you. It was never meant for the weak-minded, but for those strong enough to master their soul. You are not called to be consumed by evil, but to overcome it from a higher place, with spiritual authority. Stay with me till the end, because what I will reveal today will bring clarity, peace, and strength you didn't know you still had. Before we continue, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the bell icon, share this message with other chosen ones, and comment 777 to declare that you are aligned with God's guidance and ready to walk in spiritual authority. Why Romans 12:21 was written for the chosen ones. Chosen one, I want you to slow down and really hear this. Romans 12:21 is not a decorative verse. It is not poetic filler. It is a strategic instruction from God, specifically crafted for people like you, people who carry light, people who feel deeply, people who are targeted not because they are weak, but because they are dangerous to darkness. The verse says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Now listen carefully. God was not speaking to people who never face evil. He was speaking to those who face it often. Constant resistance, silent battles, unseen warfare, betrayal that comes from unexpected places. That is the life of the chosen one. Ordinary people don't need this instruction because they are rarely attacked at the level you are. You see, chosen ones don't just exist. They disrupt. Your presence challenges systems, attitudes, and hidden intentions. And because of that, evil does not ignore you. Evil studies you. It waits for moments of weakness, exhaustion, emotional vulnerability. That is why God did not tell you to fight evil with evil. He told you how to outgrow it. This verse was not written to make you passive. It was written to make you untouchable. When God says, "Do not be overcome by evil," He is warning you about something subtle. Evil doesn't always try to destroy you directly. Sometimes it tries to turn you into itself. It tries to pull you down into bitterness, rage, revenge, and coldness. And the moment you start acting out of those places, you lose clarity. You lose peace. You lose alignment. That is how evil wins battles it could never win by force. God knew that chosen ones feel more. You love deeply. You invest genuinely. You forgive repeatedly. And because of that, wounds can cut deeper. So God gave you a higher law, not to suppress your emotions, but to govern them. Overcoming evil with good does not mean allowing abuse. It does not mean staying silent forever. It does not mean pretending nothing hurts. It means you refuse to let darkness rewrite your nature. It means you respond from your soul, not from your scars. Most people react. Chosen ones respond. There is a difference. Reaction is instinctive and emotional. Response is intentional and spiritual. Evil thrives on reaction. It feeds on impulsive words, heated decisions, and wounded pride. But when you respond with wisdom, restraint, and integrity, you starve it. That is why this verse was written for you and not for everyone else. Because you are being trained for elevation, and elevation requires emotional mastery. Let me tell you something most people will never understand. God does not promote people who cannot control themselves under pressure. He prepares them first, and pressure is the classroom. Conflict is the lesson. Opposition is the examination. Every time you choose not to become what hurt you, you pass a test. Romans 12:21 is God saying, "I know what they did. I know what they said. I know how unfair it was. But I also know what I placed inside you. And if you protect that, nothing outside of you can defeat you. Chosen one, this verse is not about being nice. It is about being powerful in a way the world does not recognize. It is about spiritual intelligence. It is about understanding that your soul is more valuable than your pride, and your peace is more important than proving a point. When you overcome evil with good, you are not losing. You are rising above the battlefield entirely. You are stepping into a dimension where God handles what you no longer need to touch. And this is why this message matters right now. Because you may be standing at a moment where reacting feels justified, where defending yourself feels necessary, where returning the same energy feels tempting. But God is calling you higher. Not because you are weak, but because you are chosen. Chosen one, let me add this carefully, because this part will settle something inside your spirit. When God gave this instruction, He was also protecting your future. You may not see it now, but every time you choose restraint over retaliation, you are preserving doors that anger would have slammed shut. You are protecting relationships, opportunities, and callings you have not yet stepped into. Evil does not just want to hurt you today. It wants to disqualify you tomorrow. That is why some situations feel so emotionally charged. That is why certain people seem to know exactly how to press your buttons. It is not coincidence. It is strategy. The enemy wants you tired, reactive, and spiritually off balance, because a chosen one who loses inner alignment becomes distracted from their true assignment. God's way always looks slower at first, but it moves further. While others burn bridges in moments of emotion, you are being taught how to walk across waters without sinking. This is not about suppressing your voice. It is about choosing the right moment, the right tone, and the right authority. Silence, when guided by wisdom, speaks louder than arguments ever could. I want you to understand this deeply. When you walk away with peace intact, you are not running. You are reigning. You are showing that your soul is not available for manipulation, and that alone terrifies darkness. So if you've been feeling tired of always being the bigger person, hear me clearly. God sees it, heaven records it, and nothing you surrender in obedience is ever lost. It is stored, multiplied, and returned in a form that does not cost you your soul. This is why Romans 12:21 is not just scripture, it is armor. The difference between fighting evil and overcoming it. Chosen one, this is where many people get confused, and this is where many lose battles they were never meant to fight in the first place. Fighting evil and overcoming evil are not the same thing. They may look similar on the surface, but spiritually, they are worlds apart. When you fight evil, you engage it on its level. You enter its emotional terrain. You respond with the same intensity, the same tone, the same heat. Fighting is loud. Fighting is reactive. Fighting drains you. And here is the truth most people don't want to hear. Evil is very good at fighting. It has been doing it for a long time. But overcoming evil is different. Overcoming does not mean you deny the pain. It means you refuse to let the pain decide who you become. Overcoming is quiet strength. It is composure under pressure. It is restraint when retaliation feels justified. And make no mistake, this takes far more power than lashing out ever will. Evil wants engagement. It wants reaction. It wants you emotionally invested in proving, defending, explaining, and correcting. Because the moment you do that, your peace becomes collateral damage. Your clarity becomes compromised. Your spiritual authority weakens. Let me say this plainly. Not every attack is meant to be answered. Some are meant to be outgrown. Chosen ones are often misunderstood because they don't respond the way others expect. People think silence means weakness. They think calm means indifference. They think restraint means fear. But what they don't see is the inner discipline it takes to remain steady while being provoked. When someone wrongs you, the natural impulse is to correct them immediately, to defend your name, to set the record straight, and sometimes correction is necessary. But reacting from emotion is not correction, it is exposure. It exposes your wounds, it exposes your triggers, it tells the enemy exactly where to strike next. Overcoming evil requires you to pause long enough to ask a higher question. Not, how do I win this argument? But, how do I preserve my soul? This is where chosen ones are different. You are not trained to win arguments. You are trained to protect alignment. You are trained to remain anchored when chaos tries to pull you into its current. Think about this. Evil does not need to defeat you physically if it can destabilize you emotionally. It does not need to silence you if it can exhaust you. And it does not need to overpower you if it can provoke you into self-sabotage. That is why so many battles feel personal. That is why the words cut deep. That is why the betrayal hurts more than expected. Because the attack is not just against you. It is against what you carry. When you fight evil emotionally, you carry it home with you. You replay conversations, you imagine comebacks, you lose sleep. Your body stays tense, your spirit stays unsettled. That is how evil lingers. But when you overcome evil spiritually, you leave it where it belongs, outside of you. Overcoming does not mean pretending it didn't happen. It means you refuse to let it live rent-free in your mind. It means you process the pain without poisoning your spirit. It means you acknowledge the wound without becoming bitter. Here is something I learned long ago. Evil is loud because it is insecure. It needs validation, it needs reaction, it needs to feel seen. But goodness, when rooted in strength, does not announce itself. It stands firm and lets truth expose what needs no explanation. Chosen one, some of the strongest moments in your life will be the ones no one applauds. The moments you didn't clap back. The moments you didn't explain yourself. The moments you walked away with dignity instead of winning the room. The world teaches you to match energy. God teaches you to master it. Matching energy keeps you in cycles. Mastering energy breaks them. Overcoming evil with good does not mean you tolerate disrespect forever. It means you choose when and how to respond. It means you don't let wounded people decide your character. It means you understand that timing is part of wisdom. There is a reason Jesus remained silent before certain accusations, not because he had nothing to say, but because not every audience deserves your truth. Silence can be a form of discernment. It protects sacred things from careless hands. Chosen ones often feel frustrated because they feel like they are always the ones who have to rise above, always the ones who have to be mature, always the ones who have to let things go. And that can feel unfair. But here is the reality. You are not being punished. You are being refined. Refinement feels restrictive before it feels empowering. It feels like restraint before it feels like freedom. But once you understand it, you realize something important. You are no longer controlled by external behavior. You are anchored internally. And that is power. Evil wants you emotionally predictable. It wants to know that if it pushes this button, you will explode. If it says this phrase, you will collapse. If it accuses you this way, you will rush to defend yourself. But when you overcome evil, you become unpredictable to darkness. Calm where chaos is expected. Grace where retaliation is assumed. Silence where noise is demanded. This confuses the enemy. And confusion is the beginning of defeat. Chosen one, do not underestimate the power of composure. Do not underestimate the authority of peace. When you remain grounded, you shift the atmosphere. When you refuse to engage in chaos, you expose it. People often reveal their intentions when you don't react the way they want. Their frustration grows. Their masks slip. Their motives surface. And you see clearly why God told you to rise above instead of striking back. Fighting evil keeps you locked in the moment. Overcoming evil positions you for the future. God is not preparing you to survive conflict. He is preparing you to lead beyond it. That is why some battles feel repetitive. Because the lesson is not about the other person. It is about you learning when to step back, when to stay still, and when to let God step in. When you fight, you get tired. When you overcome, you get free. And freedom is always the goal. So the next time you feel that urge to react, pause, breathe. Ask yourself one simple question: is this worth the cost of my peace? Most of the time, the answer will guide you into silence, wisdom, and strength. And that, chosen one, is how you overcome evil without ever becoming it. Chosen one, let me take this deeper, because this is where true understanding begins to settle in your spirit. There is a hidden cost to constantly fighting. It slowly reshapes your inner world. You may win the argument, but you lose softness. You may prove your point, but you harden your heart. And over time, you start becoming vigilant, guarded, and reactive, even when no threat is present. That is not strength. That is survival mode. And God did not call you to merely survive. He called you to live free. Overcoming evil protects your tenderness. It protects your ability to feel, to love, to trust God, even after disappointment. Chosen ones often think they must toughen up to endure the world, but what God actually does is teach you how to remain gentle without being fragile. That balance is sacred. When you fight evil repeatedly, your nervous system stays activated, your mind stays on alert, your body never fully rests. But when you overcome evil, your system learns safety again. Peace returns. Clarity returns. Sleep becomes deeper. Prayer becomes lighter. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. And here is something most people never realize. Evil loses interest when it cannot control your emotional state, when it can no longer provoke you into spirals of anger, shame, or self-doubt. It looks for easier targets. Calm is not passive. Calm is intimidating to chaos. Chosen one, some of your greatest victories will be internal and invisible. No applause, no recognition, just you walking away without carrying bitterness, you forgiving without reconciling, you choosing distance without hatred. These are mature spiritual decisions. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to disengage. You are allowed to say, "This no longer deserves my energy." That is not weakness. That is wisdom earned through experience. Remember this. Fighting keeps you tethered to what hurt you. Overcoming releases you from it. And when you finally release it, you make room for what God has been trying to give you all along. That is when healing becomes real. Why your soul is your strongest weapon. Chosen one, I want you to understand something that most people never discover in their entire lifetime. Your greatest strength is not your words. It is not your intellect. It is not your ability to endure pain. Your greatest strength is your soul. And that is exactly why it is the primary target. The world teaches power as dominance, control, intimidation, volume. But God teaches power as alignment, stillness, discernment, inner authority. When your soul is anchored, nothing external can shake you for long. And when your soul is disturbed, even small problems feel overwhelming. Your soul is where your values live. It is where your conscience speaks. It is where God communes with you quietly, not loudly. And because of that, evil does not attack your body first. It attacks your peace. It attacks your sense of self. It attacks your hope. Because if it can disturb your soul, it can distort your decisions. Chosen ones often underestimate this. You think strength is pushing through exhaustion, enduring disrespect, tolerating emotional chaos. But that is not strength. That is erosion. Strength is knowing when to pause, when to pull back, when to protect what is sacred inside you. Your soul is not fragile, but it is sensitive. And sensitivity is not weakness. Sensitivity is perception. It allows you to sense shifts, intentions, and atmospheres before words are spoken. That is why chosen ones often feel things before they understand them. That is why you sense tension, dishonesty, or danger, even when everything looks calm on the surface. That awareness is a gift, but only if you learn how to protect it. When you let anger dominate your soul, discernment fades. When bitterness takes root, clarity blurs. When resentment settles in, compassion dries up. And that is the slow victory of evil, not destruction, but corrosion. God did not tell you to overcome evil with good because good behavior looks nice. He told you because goodness preserves your soul's structure. It keeps you aligned with who you were created to be. It prevents you from becoming someone you don't recognize. Your soul carries your assignment, and anything that disrupts it delays your purpose. Chosen one, listen closely. Every time you choose peace over proving a point, your soul grows stronger. Every time you choose silence over reaction, your soul becomes more refined. Every time you forgive without reopening wounds, your soul becomes lighter. That lightness is not emotional denial. It is emotional maturity. There is a reason people feel drained after certain interactions. It is not because the conversation was long. It is because the soul was pulled into conflict, into defense, into justification, into emotional labor it was never meant to perform. Your soul was not designed to wrestle with chaos daily. It was designed to commune with God. And here is where chosen ones struggle. You often feel responsible for fixing things, explaining yourself, making others understand, restoring harmony at your own expense. But not every misunderstanding needs clarification. Not every conflict needs resolution. Some need distance. Some need time. Some need to be released entirely. Protecting your soul sometimes means disappointing people. Sometimes it means being misunderstood. Sometimes it means choosing solitude over engagement. And that is okay. Jesus often withdrew, not because he was overwhelmed, but because he understood rhythm. He understood that constant output without restoration weakens even the strongest spirit. Your soul needs space to breathe. When you nourish your soul, your reactions change, your patience deepens, your responses soften, your confidence stabilizes. You no longer feel the need to rush into battles or defend every accusation. That is when authority becomes natural, not forced. Evil cannot overpower a soul that is grounded. It can only distract it. And distraction is subtle. It comes in the form of overthinking, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes, carrying resentment quietly. But once you become aware of this, you gain choice. You can say, I will not carry this today. You can say, this does not deserve my inner space. You can say, I trust God with what I cannot control. That is not avoidance. That is wisdom. Chosen one, your soul responds to how you treat it. When you neglect it, it becomes tired. When you overload it, it becomes anxious. When you protect it, it becomes resilient. Prayer strengthens the soul. Stillness calms it. Gratitude softens it. Truth anchors it. And the more anchored your soul becomes, the less reactive you are. The less reactive you are, the less influence evil has over you. This is why some people seem unbothered even in chaos. It is not because they don't care. It is because they have learned where their power resides. Your soul is not meant to absorb every blow. It is meant to guide your response. And when you live this way, something shifts. Situations that once triggered you lose their grip. People who once drained you lose access. Conflicts that once consumed you become background noise. Not because the world changed, but because you did. That is spiritual growth. Chosen one, guarding your soul is not selfish. It is stewardship. God entrusted you with it for a reason. And when you honor that trust, you move differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. And that difference is felt. Your soul is not just your strength. It is your shield. How evil tries to pull you down to its level. Chosen one, now we speak about awareness. Because once you understand how evil operates, you stop taking things so personally. You stop internalizing attacks that were never about you to begin with. And most importantly, you stop falling into traps that were designed to drain your spirit. Evil rarely comes announcing itself. It comes disguised as provocation, as misunderstanding, as disrespect, as betrayal that feels deeply personal. It studies your values, your compassion, your patience, and then it uses those very traits to try to destabilize you. One of the most common tactics is emotional baiting. Someone says something just sharp enough to sting, just inaccurate enough to trigger correction, just unfair enough to make you want to defend yourself. And the moment you take the bait, the focus shifts. No longer on truth, but on reaction. No longer on integrity, but on emotion. Evil wants to drag you into the mud because it knows you shine on higher ground. Chosen ones often ask, why does this keep happening to me? Why am I always misunderstood? Why do people project their issues onto me? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. Your presence exposes what others are trying to hide from themselves, and exposure creates discomfort. When people are uncomfortable, they often lash out. They accuse, they criticize, they distort. Not because you are wrong, but because your alignment reminds them of their own disconnection. Evil uses projection very effectively. People place their unresolved wounds, insecurities, and fears onto you. And if you are not careful, you start carrying weight that was never yours to hold. Another tactic is urgency. Evil wants immediate response. It wants you to speak before you think, decide before you discern, act before you pray. Because speed bypasses wisdom. Slowness invites clarity. That is why chosen ones must learn to pause. There is power in delay. There is protection in silence. There is wisdom in waiting until emotions settle before responding. Not everything needs an immediate answer. Some things reveal their truth with time. Evil also tries to isolate you emotionally. It whispers lies like, no one understands you. You're always alone in this. You have to handle everything yourself. And if you believe that, you withdraw in a way that disconnects you from support, prayer, and perspective. Isolation weakens discernment. Chosen one, you were never meant to walk alone. Even Jesus had moments where he brought others close. Not everyone, but a trusted few. Discernment is not about shutting everyone out. It is about knowing who has access to your inner world. Another trap is repetition. The same conflict, the same type of person, the same emotional pattern. Evil repeats what works until you become aware of it. And once you see the pattern, you gain the power to break it. Patterns reveal lessons. Ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me about boundaries, patience, or self-respect? Often, the lesson is not about changing others, but about strengthening yourself. Evil also uses guilt. It convinces you that choosing peace is selfish, that setting boundaries is unloving, that walking away is abandonment. But that is a lie. You cannot pour from an empty soul. You cannot heal others by harming yourself. Love without boundaries becomes self-neglect. Chosen ones are compassionate, but compassion without wisdom leads to exhaustion. God never asked you to sacrifice your soul to prove your faith. He asked you to guard it. Another subtle tactic is comparison. Evil points to others who retaliate and seem to get away with it, others who speak harshly and are applauded, others who act without restraint and appear successful, and it whispers, "See, your way doesn't work." But what you don't see is the cost they pay privately. The unrest, the instability, the inner chaos, the spiritual emptiness. Your path is different because your calling is different. Evil also uses familiarity. Attacks often come from people you trust, people you opened up to, people you expected support from. That hurts deeply. But understand this: familiarity gives access, not authority. Someone knowing your story does not give them permission to rewrite it. Betrayal is painful, but it is also revealing. It shows you who can walk with you into your next season and who cannot. And here is one of the most important things to understand. Evil wants you to become emotionally predictable. It wants to know exactly how to provoke you, exactly how to upset you, exactly how to pull you out of alignment. But once you become aware of your triggers, you gain choice. You can respond differently. You can step back. You can protect your energy. Unpredictability confuses darkness. Chosen one, not every situation requires your engagement. Some require your absence. Some require prayer instead of conversation. Some require distance instead of explanation. You do not owe everyone access to your emotional world, and this is where maturity shows, not in how loudly you speak, but in how wisely you choose when to speak. Evil grows frustrated when it cannot provoke you. when it cannot rush you, when it cannot guilt you, when it cannot isolate you, and that frustration often causes it to reveal itself more clearly. Silence often exposes what arguments never could. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You are responsible for stewarding your own soul. And when you do that, you stop being pulled into cycles that drain you. Chosen one, awareness is the beginning of freedom. When you see the tactics, you stop internalizing the attacks. You stop questioning your worth. You stop replaying conversations endlessly. You realize something powerful. This was never about you losing control. It was about you learning mastery. And mastery always elevates you above the battlefield. That is how you stay rooted. That is how you stay clear. That is how you overcome evil without letting it shape you. And once you understand this, you move differently, calmly, confidently, anchored. Chosen one. Let me add this layer because this is where many finally gain peace. Evil is patient, but it is not wise. It repeats itself because it does not evolve. And once you stop reacting the same way, its influence weakens. That is why growth often comes with a sense of disappointment at first. You realize how predictable certain behaviors are, how shallow certain conflicts feel, and how much energy you used to give away without realizing it. There will be moments when you feel tempted to explain yourself one last time, to clarify your intentions, to defend your heart. But understand this. People committed to misunderstanding you will never be satisfied with your explanation. Their issue is not confusion. It is resistance. And that realization brings freedom. You stop arguing with projections. You stop carrying accusations that don't belong to you. You stop trying to heal people who are not willing to heal themselves. That is not cruelty. That is discernment. Chosen one, emotional maturity often feels lonely at first. Not because you are isolated, but because fewer people can meet you where you now stand. And that is okay. Growth naturally changes your circles. When you stop feeding chaos, chaos starves. And when chaos starves, peace grows. So if you feel lighter lately, even after walking away from difficult situations, that is confirmation. Your soul is adjusting to freedom. Trust it. Practical guidance, how to overcome evil daily without losing your peace. Chosen one, now we move from understanding into practice. Wisdom that stays in the mind helps a little. Wisdom that enters daily life changes everything. Overcoming evil is not a single dramatic moment. It is a quiet, consistent way of living. And the good news is this: you don't need to become someone else to do it. You only need to become more rooted in who God already made you to be. The first practice is inner alignment before outer reaction. When something upsets you, do not rush to respond. Pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what is this stirring inside me right now? Anger, fear, disappointment, pride, hurt. Naming the emotion disarms it. Unnamed emotions control you. Named emotions inform you. This pause creates space for wisdom to enter before words leave your mouth. Prayer does not always need to be long or dramatic. Sometimes it is a quiet sentence in your spirit. God, guide my response. God, guard my heart. God, help me see clearly. These small moments of connection recalibrate your soul throughout the day. You don't have to wait until nightfall to release the weight you picked up in the afternoon. The second practice is choosing distance without bitterness. Distance is not punishment. It is protection. Not everyone deserves continued access to your emotional world. And that does not make you cold. It makes you discerning. When interactions consistently leave you drained, confused, or unsettled, pay attention. Your soul is communicating something important. You are allowed to limit conversations. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to say less. Silence is not avoidance when it comes from clarity. It is self-respect. Another daily practice is guarding your thoughts. Evil rarely enters through events alone. It enters through interpretation, through replaying moments, through imagining outcomes that have not happened. When you catch your mind looping, gently interrupt it. Say, I will not carry this twice. Once was enough. Redirect your focus. Ground yourself in what is real and present. Gratitude is a powerful stabilizer. Not forced positivity, but intentional acknowledgement. Thank God for peace returning. Thank God for protection you didn't see. Thank God for strength that showed up quietly. Gratitude anchors your soul in abundance instead of threat. Chosen one, learn to bless without bonding. You can wish someone well without keeping them close. You can forgive without reopening doors. Forgiveness releases you. Boundaries preserve you. Both can exist at the same time. Another essential practice is rest. Not just physical rest, but emotional rest. Stop carrying conversations that are over. Stop revisiting decisions you already made with wisdom. Stop questioning yourself when you acted with integrity. Trust that God corrects what needs correction without your constant involvement. Pay attention to your body. Tension is often a signal that something needs release. Stretch, walk, breathe deeply. Your body holds what your words don't express. Caring for it is spiritual stewardship. Daily overcoming also means choosing what you consume. Words, media, conversations. Protect your inner atmosphere. What you allow in shapes how you respond out. Fill your mind with truth, not noise. With encouragement, not outrage. Chosen one, do not underestimate routine faithfulness. Small choices repeated daily build spiritual resilience. Peace becomes your default. Discernment sharpens. Reactions soften. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself. You stop explaining your heart to those who refuse to understand it. And when you fail, because you will sometimes, be gentle with yourself. Growth is not linear. Repentance is not punishment. It is realignment. God does not shame you back into peace. He invites you. Every day is another opportunity to choose who you will be when challenged. And each choice shapes the strength of your soul. This is how you overcome evil daily. Not by force, not by fear, but by faithful alignment. And over time, peace becomes not something you chase, but something you carry. Chosen one, let me expand this, because daily practice is where transformation truly settles into your life. One of the most overlooked disciplines is learning when to disengage internally, even if you must remain present externally. You may still work with certain people. You may still interact in unavoidable spaces. But emotional disengagement does not require physical absence. It requires clarity. You stop seeking validation from those who cannot give it. You stop expecting fairness from those who operate in broken patterns. This shift alone restores immense peace. Another daily practice is speaking life over yourself before the world speaks over you. Begin your day by reminding your soul who you are before opinions, conflicts, or demands try to define you. Say it quietly if you must. I am guided. I am protected. I am aligned. I do not need to rush. When your inner voice is anchored in truth, external voices lose their power. Chosen one, learn the discipline of delayed response. Not every message needs an immediate reply. Not every confrontation needs instant resolution. Delayed response is not avoidance when it comes from discernment. It allows emotions to settle and truth to surface. Many conflicts dissolve on their own when you stop feeding them. Another powerful practice is releasing the need to control outcomes. Overcoming evil does not mean you manage how everyone behaves. It means you trust God with what you cannot regulate. Control exhausts the soul. Trust restores it. When you say, God, I release this into your hands, you free yourself from mental labor that was never yours to carry. Pay attention to patterns of fatigue. When you are tired, hungry, or overwhelmed, reactions intensify. Build rhythms that support your nervous system. Sleep well, eat regularly, step outside. Stillness is not laziness. It is maintenance for spiritual clarity. Chosen ones often neglect joy, thinking seriousness equals holiness. But joy is a form of resistance. Laughter breaks heaviness. Beauty restores perspective. Music, nature, creativity, and connection are not distractions from spirituality. They are expressions of it. A nourished soul is harder to provoke. Practice self-honesty without self-condemnation. If something hurt you, acknowledge it. If you feel angry, admit it. God does not require denial. He invites truth. But do not camp there. Feel, process, release. Emotions are messengers, not masters. Another daily habit is choosing your battles intentionally. Ask yourself, will engaging here produce peace or prolong tension? Will speaking now clarify or confuse? Wisdom is not knowing what to say, but knowing when silence speaks louder. Chosen one, make prayer conversational. Invite God into ordinary moments, while driving, while washing dishes, while walking. Spiritual alignment is sustained through ongoing connection, not occasional intensity. There will be days when you respond perfectly, and days when you don't. Do not let a single moment define your journey. Growth is measured in direction, not perfection. Each day you choose peace even once, you strengthen the pathway toward freedom. Finally, remember this. Overcoming evil daily does not make life conflict-free. It makes you conflict-resilient. Situations may arise, but they no longer uproot you. You bend without breaking. You feel without drowning. You stand without hardening. And slowly, quietly, your life begins to reflect something unmistakable. Stability, grace, authority. Not because the world became gentle, but because your soul became anchored. This is the fruit of daily alignment. What happens when you choose God's way instead of revenge? Chosen one. This is where faith becomes visible. This is where everything you've been practicing begins to produce fruit. Choosing God's way instead of revenge does not just change situations. It changes you. And once you change, your entire life responds differently. At first, choosing restraint may feel like loss. It may feel like silence where you wanted justice. It may feel like letting go when you wanted closure. But that feeling does not last. What replaces it is something far more powerful. Peace without regret. Strength without guilt. Clarity without chaos. When you choose God's way, you stop living from wounds and start living from wisdom. One of the first things that happens is internal calm. The constant mental noise quiets. You stop replaying conversations. You stop fantasizing about what you should have said. Your mind is no longer occupied with proving your worth or correcting false narratives. And that mental space creates room for something sacred. God's voice becomes clearer. Revenge keeps you emotionally tied to the past. God's way releases you into the present. Another shift happens in how people respond to you. Some will become uncomfortable. Others will grow distant. Not because you did something wrong, but because your calm exposes their chaos. Your restraint highlights their lack of control. And while some will resist this, others will respect it deeply. You gain quiet authority. People may not understand your silence, but they feel your stability. They sense that you are no longer easily manipulated, that you no longer chase validation, that you no longer react on impulse, and that changes how they approach you. When you choose God's way, God steps into battles you step out of. This is something chosen ones must understand clearly. God does not compete with your ego. He intervenes where surrender creates space. When you release the need to retaliate, justify, or defend at all costs, you invite divine justice to operate without obstruction. And divine justice is precise. It is timely. It does not require your involvement. You may not see it immediately, but situations shift. Truth surfaces, intentions are revealed, and outcomes align in ways you could not have engineered yourself. Another powerful result is emotional maturity. You stop reacting like who you were and start responding like who you are becoming. Triggers lose their grip. Old wounds stop controlling present decisions. You begin to recognize emotional patterns before they spiral. This is not suppression. This is integration. You still feel. You still care. But you are no longer ruled by impulse. Choosing God's way also accelerates your growth. Lessons that once took years to learn settle in quickly. Discernment sharpens. Boundaries strengthen. You trust yourself more because you are aligned with truth, not emotion. And here is something deeply comforting. When you choose peace, you do not lose yourself. You find yourself. Many chosen ones fear that if they don't fight back, they will disappear, that their voice will be silenced, that their needs will be ignored. But the opposite happens. You become more visible, not less, because you are no longer diluted by chaos. Your presence becomes grounded, your words carry weight, your decisions reflect confidence. God's way also restores your joy. Revenge feels powerful for a moment, but it leaves residue. God's way feels uncomfortable at first, but it leaves peace. And peace is sustainable. Joy returns quietly. Laughter feels lighter. Rest feels deeper. Prayer feels more natural. You stop bracing for impact because your nervous system learns safety again. This is healing. Another shift is trust. You begin to trust God with outcomes instead of trying to control them. And that trust frees you from constant vigilance. You no longer feel responsible for correcting every wrong or managing every perception. You understand something profound. Not everything requires your response. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Not every injustice needs your involvement. God handles what you release. And when you release it, you free yourself from bitterness, resentment, and spiritual exhaustion. You no longer carry emotional weight that does not belong to you. Chosen one, choosing God's way does not mean people will suddenly treat you better. It means their behavior no longer determines your peace. And that is freedom. Over time, you notice that your life becomes less reactive and more intentional. You make decisions from clarity, not pressure. You speak from conviction, not defense. You move forward without dragging the past behind you. Opportunities align. Relationships shift. Some fall away. Others deepen. And all of it serves your growth. God's way also protects your heart from becoming hardened. Revenge hardens. Bitterness closes. But God's way keeps you open without leaving you exposed. You learn how to be compassionate without being consumed. Firm without being harsh. Kind without being naive. This balance is rare, and it is powerful. Chosen one, when you consistently choose God's way, something else happens that few talk about. You become a safe place for others, not because you tolerate everything, but because you embody stability. People sense that you are not volatile, that you are grounded, that you respond thoughtfully, and that influence matters. You lead without shouting, you teach without preaching, you inspire without trying. This is what it means to overcome evil with your soul, not by force, not by fear, but by alignment so deep that darkness has nothing to attach itself to. And once you live this way, you will never want to go back. Because peace, once tasted, becomes non-negotiable. And that, chosen one, is the quiet reward of obedience. Conclusion, a final word for the chosen one. Chosen one. Let me leave you with this truth, and I want you to carry it gently, not heavily. Romans 12:21 was never meant to burden you. It was meant to protect you. God was not asking you to tolerate evil. He was teaching you how to rise above it without losing yourself in the process. You were never called to become hard, bitter, or reactive in order to survive this world. You were called to become anchored. Every time you choose peace over revenge, you are not backing down. You are stepping forward into maturity. Every time you refuse to let anger rule your response, you are preserving your soul. And every time you trust God with what you cannot control, you are walking in true authority. You don't need to fight every battle to win your destiny. Some victories come through restraint, some through silence. Some through simply refusing to become what tried to hurt you. Chosen One, your soul is too valuable to be sacrificed on the altar of temporary satisfaction. Your peace is too sacred to be traded for momentary validation, and your calling is too important to be delayed by emotional exhaustion. If this message reached you today, it was not random, it was timely, it was intentional, and it was meant to remind you of who you are becoming. So walk forward calmly, respond wisely, trust deeply. God is handling what you released, heaven is backing what you surrendered, and your obedience is shaping a future filled with peace, clarity, and strength. Before you go, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the bell icon, share this message with other chosen ones who need this spiritual clarity, and comment 777 to declare that you choose God's way, you protect your soul, and you are aligned with your divine path. Walk in peace. You are guided. You are protected.